Hey, it's Soul, and this is not supposed to be Warcraft Weekly, but it is now because, well, a certain thing that Blizzard just posted pretty much torpedoed the entire script, which meant that I would have nothing. And so here I am, just going to do this semi-live. So I want to thank you for joining me. Please like the video, subscribe for more content, to join me on stream for some conversations. We have fun sometimes. And today we're just going to jump in straight into the main topic, which is about Mythic Plus versus raids, because there were some great updates that came from the WoW team just, a couple of minutes or so ago that updated item levels. They reiterated their kind of motivations behind Mythic Plus. They announced that they're going to be doing testing this weekend, which is great. And so we're going to go over like the changes, some of the reactions from my personal perspective, and maybe try to capture some broad perspectives as well. But let's get to the reading first, and then we'll start reacting. So, hello, and thank you for taking the time to share your thoughts here. Feedback like this is valuable, and it helps to inform discussion within the team as we continue to iterate systems like Mythic Plus. While I don't have information to share about this specific suggestion today, I do want to take this opportunity to offer some insight into changes coming to Mythic Plus and Dragonflight and our thought process behind them, as well as open up a discussion around elements that are still being worked on or could change in the future. First, we'd like to provide some of the context for a change you may have already heard about, like the seasonal dungeon rotation. If you've done Mythic Plus over multiple seasons, you may have had the experience of running a particular dungeon over and over, chasing a prized item, only to be faced with chasing that same item in that same dungeon the following season as well. That's not great, and we want to do something about it. Perhaps the biggest change coming in Dragonflight is that we'll be rotating the entire set of Mythic Plus dungeons every season. We believe this will result in a better overall experience by providing primary Mythic Plus players with more of the sense of exploration and progression each season that raiders get to enjoy with new raids. Much of the fun with Mythic Plus comes from seeing yourself get better and better at playing a dungeon through experience, but opportunities to learn and improve become more scarce the longer a dungeon stays active in the pool. Keeping the level of effort required to get the best rewards consistent season over season. That's another bullet point they want to improve the experience with. And they're clarifying by saying that learning a new raid can be fun and challenging, but the relative ease of completing Mythic Plus dungeons that everyone mastered last season can create heavy social pressure to spend time in Mythic Plus gearing up, even if it's not your preferred activity. And then creating space for returning players to jump into Mythic Plus even if they missed the previous season. Imagine taking a break during season 1 and coming back in season 2, only to join a Mythic Plus group and feel like you're holding them back because everyone just knows a strategy that you never had a chance to learn. With dungeons rotating every season, everyone gets to start on a relatively even playing field and figure out new strategies together. Nothing too new. I'm pretty supportive of this sort of move. Seasonal affixes. These have been a staple of Mythic Plus for years now, but what purpose do they serve and why do we keep making them? Seasonal affixes play a key role in shaking up gameplay. We're asking you to play the same dungeons for well over a year, and adding new twists helps to keep them feeling fresh. It gives us an opportunity to add thematic flavor and give each season a sense of identity. It's cool to have N'Zoth or Denathrius influencing Mythic Plus dungeons at the same time that they're featured in the raid. And they're a great place to experiment and try new ideas. We can keep things that work well for future seasons while safely leaving behind things that didn't work as well. But as great as seasonal affixes have been, they also have limitations. With their relatively high complexity and strong seasonal ties, they're mostly lost to history once a season is over. But while they do have experimental value, they don't contribute as much long-term benefit to Mythic Plus as we'd like. A side effect of the dungeon rotation change above is that it takes the pressure off the seasonal fix to be the big thing that transforms the gameplay in a new season, and this has given us space to really think about what a seasonal fix might look like going forward. Should we try to make seasonals that can become regular fixes in future seasons? Should we stop doing them in favor of something else entirely? There are lots of interesting questions to consider as we move forward. On beta realms, you're going to be seeing a new experimental version of a season affix named Thundering. We're still iterating heavily, and it's likely the functionality is going to change, but it should give a sense of the level of complexity we'd like seasonal affixes to occupy in Dragonflight. Since you'll already be learning a whole new set of dungeons, the seasonal affix can be less complicated and focus more on being about thematic flavor, as well as giving us space to try new things. Another shift that you'll likely notice is a reduction in the amount of borrowed power provided by seasonal affixes. While feedback on beneficial affix facts has been positive and it's a space we definitely want to continue exploring, we hit a level of power in Shadowlands that felt extreme and contributed heavily to the short-circuiting effect described above. We'll be keeping a close eye both on how this feels in playtests and on player feedback, and we may try other directions if it doesn't work out as well as we'd like. For example, there's a world where we would have beneficial effects closer to Shadowlands, but we also make enemies more powerful to offset that extra power. The key takeaway here is that we want to continue experimenting with Mythic Plus, and we hope you'll appreciate seeing a bigger difference in your experience with each season in Dragonflight. So I kind of understand where they're coming from here, that for example, with the season 2 affix, the one where we got like the anima powers and things like that. Now, it was pretty forgettable, but it also provided a pretty big contributing factor as to what made the difference between pushing and not pushing the key. The Kiss Curse from, not exactly Kiss Curse, but the Prideful affix, while that had strong benefits, I definitely was not a fan of it because of how it required you to not just know a route, but to know like a kill route and have that change every now and then because of certain affixes. That was a big mess for me too. So departing from affixes that largely benefit the player, I get where they're coming from, but it also, I'm sure a bunch of us will make the point, they were fun though. It is cool to have like that big power boost and be able to take advantage of it. It does suck in the case of things like Prideful when you can't take advantage of that really powerful thing, and then it feels like, oh, well, I just pretty much borked my key because we missed out on this and now we can't get that back. All right, let's move on to more. Are we at the item level stuff yet? Okay. Rewarding dedicated Mythic Plus players. Throughout Shadowlands, we've observed a trend where players who've mastered a set of Mythic Plus dungeons are seeing their sense of progression short-circuited in subsequent seasons. This is a complex problem that intersects with several of the topics outlined above, but the bottom line is that something valuable is lost when the best gear that you can get from Mythic Plus isn't necessarily something that you earn by investing time and effort into getting really good at Mythic Plus. To be extremely clear, this does not mean we want to make Mythic Plus less rewarding. It's a major pillar of the endgame of World of Warcraft, and players who want to focus on it should have access to competitive rewards. What it does mean is that we want Mythic Plus to have more of a sense of progression as you push higher and higher keys, and we want the gear that you get to feel like a reflection of that. To achieve this goal, we're making two big changes. First, starting with Keystone level 11, we're increasing the rate at which enemies gain health and damage with each subsequent key from 8% to 10%. So after 11, it gets harder faster. The impact from this change isn't as dramatic as any given key level, but it should contribute to giving each step up more of a sense of progression and make it easier for us to step up rewards accordingly. Secondly, we're adjusting the item level of gear rewards from both end of run chests and from the Great Vault, and scaling their item level growth up to Keystone level 20. We're also introducing an additional Valor upgrade tier, which will increase the maximum item level of Valor upgrades that players can unlock with the higher Mythic Plus ratings. You can review the chart below for details. It's game time. This is the part you probably skipped to. Let's take a look at the chart. So let's go with plus 10. So plus 10s, it gives you an item level of 392. You get 398 out of it. Plus 15s give you 398, and for 11s, I guess the best thing, I guess obviously we should just go straight to the bottom with plus 20s. So now before we had the impression that there was going to be plus 18s, that was what was data mined. So now we have the real stuff. It's going to be plus 20. You're going to get item level 405 gear and an item level 421 piece in the vault. This is a big shift. So here's the chart that I had made, and it's available online. I'm going to provide another link to it below in case you missed it. That kind of gives you a visual representation of like where item levels and keys and what star and whatnot are at. So I believe I had updated this fairly accurately, where keys 2 and 3 are down here. They're you get rewards equivalent to like Raid Finder or so. And then when you complete a 2 or 3, you get a 382 in the vault. Still Raid Finder stuff. There's a siren. Sorry about that. But as we move towards the very, very end of things, now here's what we're seeing. So here's like the end of stuff. So crafted gear will top off at an item level of 418. So in theory, someone who, for whatever reason, has all this mythic stuff, but then they just make themselves crafted gear and nothing but crafted gear. They have at best 418 gear. That's kind of an unrealistic scenario, but whatever. Mythic item level drops can go all the way up to 430, but that's just for a hunter. But you're gonna get an average item level of 415 to 424. And I have this really bad sheet. This is a very poorly made sheet. I apologize, but it kind of shows like what sorts of item level are actually in the raid. So this actually is the Paladin loot table kind of broken down. And what I found is that in this column here, if I were to equip like just the best things that I can possibly, the highest item level things that I can put on before really considering secondary stats or anything like that, at most I can get an average item level of 420, because at least in the current iteration of the beta, things like weapons, I can only get a 415 weapon as a protection paladin, whereas other folks are going to be able to get 424s, hunters get 430s, which is going to be kind of weird. But going back to this chart, what we're going to see now is that folks doing Mythic Plus are going to be able to get 421s. Now they gotta complete a 20, right? And for me, a 20 is like, well, shoot, I never even tried doing a 20. So the bar is being set very high. Would I say it's appropriately high? I'm not sure, because I don't have the skill level to really come at it with a really good perspective. If I were to say that I'm coming at this with, if I'm coming at this with, plus 15 energy, I'd say that's still going to put me at the mythic level. I'm still going to get 410, 411 gear. I think that for me, this kind of works out. This feels fair. At least at the moment, and again, this is very anecdotal of me coming at this, but to me, doing a plus 15 right now and getting a 304 in the vault, that feels like a freebie. That feels like a gimme. Whereas doing a 20, I know I'm gonna have, sorry, Siren again. I'm gonna have to step it up. I'm gonna have to do very well, or I just might not be good enough to even complete 20s or work my way up to having 20 keys to even work. And so I don't deserve to get that gear. And you know what? That's fine, because that's how I deal with things as a gamer. I'll settle for it, right? And I'll take what I can get, or I'll craft, because I'd be able to craft stuff that's better if I'm doing, if I'm doing like a 15 and I might get the reagent that lets me make mythic stuff. I don't know. So that's one thing that I'm not sure about yet, that hopefully this blog will reveal to us. But this kind of shows where we're at. We're seeing basically the best way to gear is Mythic Plus. That's the long and short of it. It has the biggest loot table, it has the most flexibility, it has the highest average item level. And people are gonna have takes. People are gonna react to that. I do feel like you gotta earn it though. And I think that's something that's gonna be really important for folks to drive home when having conversations about this. That, hey, yeah, you can get the best stuff from Mythic Plus, but you're gonna work for it. Now, as for how comparable clearing a 20 is versus completing a Mythic Raid, I can't really offer much to that. It's really your guys' opinion. That would, yeah. So let's go back. Let's go back to this and let's look at the Valor upgrade tiers really quick. So Valor is coming back. Cool. We know that now. Valor can upgrade all the way up to 415, and that's it, which ain't so bad. but you need to have a rating requirement of 2400, which sounds like you definitely need to be past to 2000, which means you definitely need to clear higher than 15s in order to get to that level. Now, if it was like I guess if it was 15s, then it would be 2000. Then the best item level that I'd be able to get would be 411s, which is okay. But again, I'm curious about how crafted gear is going to work, and I'm not sure if that's going to translate here yet. All right, a shorter affix rotation. We're moving on to less exciting stuff now. Sorry about that. The last experimental change we'd like to talk about today is placing a couple of our regular affixes on hiatus and reducing the number of weeks in the affix rotation. In Dragonflight Season 1, the Inspiring and Necrotic affixes will be taking a break, and the affix rotation will be reduced from 12 weeks to 10 weeks. Our thought process here is that Inspiring is a good affix for changing up your gameplay when you have thorough knowledge of a dungeon, but it can feel especially punishing while you're still learning. This didn't feel like a good fit with the increased emphasis on learning dungeons each season going forward. Necrotic was originally intended to be an affix that challenges tanks, but it's become increasingly apparent that routing responsibilities already place tremendous pressure on the tank players in Mythic Plus, so we'd like to try giving this affix a vacation. Just a vacation. Cool. With a shorter affix rotation overall, we're hopeful that we can reduce the perceived disparity in difficulty between weeks and allow players to more regularly feel like they can make meaningful progress towards increasing their Mythic Plus rating. I just want to make it clear that it doesn't mean that seasons are only going to be 10 weeks long. It just means that after week 10, it's going to reset back to the rotation from week 1. So if you happen to have a handy dandy chart that tells you all the affixes for all the weeks, you'll just kind of know how that's going to work and when we're going to go back to the original rotation. We're excited to see how this plays out and looking forward to trying out further changes in Season 2 and beyond. While it's too early to make promises, this may include things like swapping out more affixes, changing the level at which different affix types become active, or perhaps even trying out a new affix category entirely. Thank you again for taking the time to share your feedback and yada yada yada. So the question that I want to leave you folks with for right now, and you know what, I think I will do like a mini weekly tomorrow, I suppose. I want to leave you guys with this question. Given the levels that we're seeing now, given these charts and where things stand, I guess what are your thoughts really? Because a question comes to mind, a question that came to mind when I was originally making the weekly, and I was asking myself, do raids need Mythic Plus? Do raiders need Mythic Plus more than Mythic Plus people need raids? There's some give and take, right? Raids might have something fantastic in there. They might have a fantastic trinket. Actually, that's probably it. They probably have a fantastic trinket. That's about it. Now, when it comes to everything else, Mythic Plus seems to be the way to go. But now there's a big but in it though, because of these higher because of these higher level brackets. To me, a 20 is foreign territory. I think the highest that I've ever tried was probably an 18 or so. And maybe my perception is skewed, but it seems like it's easy to observe people just blasting Keystone Hero like it's nothing. But I don't believe that's actually true. I believe that that's a fairly small minority of folks that are doing it. And I think that's okay. So I think it's only really been like 15, 20 minutes since I've read this, since I even saw this, and then I just read this for you now. So I think I'm just still letting this settle in my brain. But I'm curious to hear what you folks have to say about this. Please leave your thoughts in a comment. I'm glad that we finally got some clarification beyond what was just data mining from the other week. Now the roller coaster of emotion gets to. I guess we're on this weird slope now, but yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comment. Thanks for coming. I hope to see you guys for a small, short weekly tomorrow morning. And I'll see you then. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay breezy.